And we thank God that the day has ended. And together with us also, we also appreciate for the presence of our guest, Madam Mrs. Chomohan Dorothy. It's a pleasure to have you. She is the asset management consultant, and kindly greet the viewers as we move forward with the point. This is our talk show this evening. You're welcome, everybody.
Good evening, viewers of Smart 24 TV. Thank you very much, Doctor, for having me here today. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to deliberate on the point, like we always do.
Thank you so much. And through the point, our program attracts experts and senior citizens, members of the public, and those from both from the private and the public sector, to discuss matters that concerns with our economic progress as a country. And tonight we have a topical discussion, which is the evaluation of Uganda's socio-economic policy reforms that reduces poverty. And we are much more interested in this discussion from time to time as a country counting down number of years that we are proud to have come from the hands of the colonialists, now counting 60 years. And for any progressive society, any progressive individual, any progressive family or community, it is important to have an assessment to know where are we as a country. You cannot attain progress economically, even if those, especially outside there, you are doing business. It's important always to make an evaluation. Either you reach a place and you say, this business is making sense, is improving my economic livelihood, or it's not doing much that I expected. As a country, we have spent some years, those which are not counted on the time of leadership of this regime, the ruling government, and we recall even the past regimes, the time which were referred to be dark ages, where you could take time to get salt and maybe line up our grandmothers and our mothers there, becomes difficult even to access to the social, commodities and basic commodities in the market. From time to time, there are changes we are able to look at, maybe especially since 1986 up to now, 2022. There are some of the achievements, if we go for that evaluation, with a double lens of being objective, what has been done that we say, we believe this is different from how it was. I was around 1986. So I remember how we used to, when you are traveling, let's say all the way from Kisoro, those hills, to Kampala, and that's someone also from Acholi, from Kitugum, up to Kampala could tell the story. We are able to acknowledge that there are a number of either socioeconomic development indicators that most of us can be able to identify. But again, our target as a country to sum it up all is that we are supposed to be a middle income status country, or where there is no one who is living under poverty. Jesus said that the poor shall always be with them, but we believe there is a level where there is no one who should be found suffering, not affording a meal per day. Basically, that was given to us, we as Uganda, as a minimum. In the United States of America, the level of a poor person may not be that. He's accessing food, but there are other challenges. He's accessing maybe all other social, economic, immediate, demanded, goods and services. We have here in our preamble, our dear guest, the report which was generated in in 1992 by the government, the Uganda Bureau of Statistics indicates the poverty level, the poverty status of Uganda was at 52%. But by 1997, it reduced to 44%. And between now, that's 1997, count many years up to where we are, 2021, it is from this report from the Ministry of Finance, it is stated to be 28%. And as a matter of fact, by 2019, by the time of the pandemic, before we went into a lockdown, our economy locked down, we were at 18%. But there has been an increase of poverty rate. That's what we mean. Dear viewers outside there, which you must know and appreciate and look at how we may be to overcome it, 10% increase of poverty. But again, where our dear guest, there is a controversy, but we will not rely on that. It is believed that we seem to be progressing economically well, and maybe the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning and Development agreed with the source of information that is to declare Uganda as a middle income status. It is controversial because now we look here, the issue of poverty, if we look at poverty, that has increased from 28% to 18%. That means if the 10% of Ugandan citizens are not able to meet their basic needs, then that means they are not contributing to taxation. And if they are not making a contribution to taxation, raising up the revenue that will be generated to support and to indicate the level of our gross domestic product, because that means production is also low, because the poor person, 10%, the poor are not in the production chain. And that means that they are not accessing services, which includes maybe, of course, the other 1 meal per day. It is a struggle. There are some people here in this city where you are talking about a meal per day, it is a challenge. In the rural areas, the livelihoods, there are some who it's a challenge. And counting on even the current status of where the skyrocketing of commodities is a challenge. Leaving that aside, dear viewers, we'll be looking at a number of socio-economic policy reforms that can be appreciated and maybe critically analyzed to see where there are gaps and where we have strength, that were adopted by the NRM government, especially to improve on the socio-economic well-being of citizens. They include, that will measure in our discussion, the policy in regard to public-private partnership. We also, which ushered our country into a liberalized economy. We also look at the banking sector, because before the NRM government, we had a fiscal policy of the government through the Bank of Uganda, where we had emphasis put into the Uganda Commercial Bank, which of course after we entered into the era, the phase of the liberalized economy, it was sold. We also look at, that's the banking sector, the fiscal policy. And we also look at the education policy, which has public-private. At first, during the days of Obote and Amin, that was not really entertained, where the government which was in charge to provide education services. Private individuals start schools, it was not entertained. So we look at that, has it, contributed to poverty reduction? We also look at the health and infrastructure. Bit by bit, it is wider, but these are our main policies we will be looking at. And we assess whether we can have a lot to appreciate and maybe it also suggests some improvements needed. And the provision also of some social amenities, and that includes water, electricity, and we're also aware of the provision of, improvement of communication, that is telecommunication, social media, and so forth. Then finally, we cannot forget the infrastructure and then agriculture. And the infrastructure together, all this, they are aligned under public-private partnership. By having here also this station itself, having TV, it's part of the alignment, or it feeds into, it's an indicator of socio-economic policy reforms. Because at first we had only the Uganda UBC, Uganda Broadcasting, right? The television, it was only one. But out of this, we see a lot has happened. But still, poverty is still a challenge, unemployment is still a challenge at 82, at 79% of the unemployed. Our dear guest, you're welcome. We'll be looking at bit by bit in the time that we'll be with the viewers, with a critical point of view, but to appreciate and also to critically analyze where we are as a country in a matter of our socio-economic progress. Being our agitation and our aspiration should be to be a poverty-free country, where when you go back home, you're having few dependents, you're having much more people who are self-sustainable, self-sufficient, in their economic livelihood. Not to go like you go to an area. The other day I was on a burial of my friend, and you find people, but these are, I do refer them as very careless people. Only asking even the help, that you can either ask a help or generosity to buy for them walaj. That one I couldn't accept. And that's part of the society outside there, the part of the poverty. Because we will also look at maybe how to address this poverty issue. Kind of allow me to welcome you. You have enough time to share with the viewers 10 to 15 minutes, which I'll be coming in where I need to be. But please, you are a Ugandan citizen and you're of this generation. Generation 40, generation, all that, the generation which knows what has been happening. And we see how we can evaluate this, and possibly the government can also maybe be able to identify how such a program is important. The point, evaluation of Uganda's socio-economic policy reforms that reduces poverty. We are with you, government, in a war to fight against poverty, and we encourage even to partner with us in such continuous program of such evaluation. You're welcome, madam.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tindieba. Good evening once again, viewers. As I was introduced earlier, my name is Dorothy Chomhanje. I am a business development consultant with asset profiling and management company. Today, our topic is revolving around poverty eradication, or policies, or the policies that policy reforms that government has taken on. Are they actually helping in reducing poverty in the country? Okay, so we're going to try and evaluate these socio-economic policy reforms and whether they are addressing the needs or the demands of the people or the population in Uganda. So before we even go to poverty eradication, we know that economic development is essential in reducing poverty. As a country, we are doing well. The statistics show that the economy is growing. It is in the best shape it has ever been. However, without the right policy frameworks, this economic development fails to trickle down to the individual. It fails to trickle down to the farmer in Bundibujo. It fails to trickle down to the carpenter in Katwe for one reason or another. And these are now some of the issues that we are really going to dive into and find out if this economic growth is actually trickling down and whether it is actually benefiting the individual at that level. Okay, so for economic growth, there are several aspects to it, and for poverty reduction, there are also several aspects to it. We'll go into detail. One, quality of life. We want to make sure that people have a good quality of life. And government is mandated in social services provision. It is mandated to provide health to the population, provide education, water, nutrition, sanitation. These are all issues that government is mandated really to provide to the individuals or to the population to improve their quality of life, okay? We are looking at issues to do with peace and security. The government also is mandated to ensure that we are in a peaceful country. If we're in a peaceful country, there is a real economic development going to grow up, as we have seen really in the last 30 years. The economy is growing because of the enabling environment, the peaceful environment that you know, that has been created over time. Then we will look at issues to do with infrastructure. Infrastructure, again, statistics are very clear, and as well we can see the government, I think, has played a very, very big role. We have infrastructure in place, we have roads. There are very few areas where you're going to drive from Kampala up country that are not tarmac roads. These are very good roads. We can drive from Kampala to Kisoro, we can drive from Kampala to Malaba, name it. We know that really the government has put in a lot of effort in infrastructure. Infrastructure, the roads are being done. Hospitals, in the last few years, we've really seen a boost. We've seen a boost in hospitals. You know, national referral hospitals have really, you know, taken shape. We have the hospitals in place.
Before you continue, there is something there you will be able also to, you know, enlighten the viewers for purpose of being sincere with our evaluation.
Yes.
For the last 35 years, and also I sum it up together, I don't want to count it on an NRM, but as a country, this is a national debate. Since 1962, now this is 2022, right? That is 60 years. And Uganda, we are still behind some other countries which have made it better than us, especially where the provision of medical services that are critical to our citizens, whether we call them VIP or not VIP, they are citizens. The country spends a lot. I've not come up with the figures here, but averagely, of recent, you are aware, 800 million is to be spent on one member of parliament. And this is following others, even which we are not listing. The list is wrong. Presidential advisor in 2014, around 14, I remember, I may not mention the name of the person for just, you know, social confidentiality, but was to spend 200, the presidential advisor of Uganda, was to spend 300 million for specialized treatment abroad. When there is just a challenge, the other time there's when we had Road Mayor Rukwago just got the challenge immediately, couldn't, you know, make it to have treatment in Mulago, had immediately to run to where? To Kenya. Other times South Africa. And we spend a lot of money. Whereas you are identifying an achievement in the health sector, but we seem, this is me, my moderation, we seem to be losing a lot of the taxpayers' money, both the borrowed fund, the public resources, the borrowed, and the domestically generated fund, being invested much more in the health sector. We seem to be talking about the infrastructure in place, whether Mulago, and even some which are lacking. You understand of what was happening with this, the hospital, the specialized hospital, Lubowa, not in place, and the provision of health services still seems to be risky, because if it is not risky for you who are spending hundreds of millions to go to abroad, then we'll be lying ourselves. It is risky. And that takes us to the English saying, survival for the fittest. Those who are surviving in this situation here, it is those who are fit enough just being provided and declared by God. And others who are much more fit, they are paying a lot to go to abroad to get specialist medication. And with that, do you think we are making a headway on to reduce poverty when the country resources much more is being spent on few individuals to get critical treatments, specialized treatments, and even whether specialized or not, that's another day, another discussion, because there's also even, because of being well pressed, can just your daughter or yourself, you know, you end up, if you want to give birth, you are not sure. That's why I said it's risky. That means it will be risky. You travel, you just, you know, airlifted to Germany for give birth. And that takes us now to a critical evaluation. In the area of the health as we evaluate, are we stable enough to affirm and confirm to our fellow citizens, the dear viewers, that Uganda socio-economic progress in the health sector is it doing well? Is it doing well? Over to you,
Doctor, thank you very much for that. And I was being deliberate in how I was bringing these issues.
Okay.
Now, we talked about education, we talked about health, we talked about, you know, infrastructure. We are going to talk about agriculture. What I was trying to put across is that as a government has really tried to put in place the infrastructure. I want us to differentiate between infrastructure and service delivery.
Okay.
That, I think, is the biggest challenge that we are facing as Uganda. Because regardless of how much infrastructure is put in place, regardless of whatever hospitals are built and whatever roads are built, if service delivery, social service delivery is not improved, if the service providers who are supposed to actually give us these services are not doing what they are supposed to do, if they are corrupt and they're stealing the medicine from the hospitals, if they are corrupt and you know, taking money from poor people maybe to get access to these facilities, then the infrastructure is not going to make that much of a difference. And I was very deliberate in saying what I was saying is that government has really tried to put infrastructure in place. But there is a challenge with service delivery. There is a challenge with corruption, which I really think would be the key to unlocking some of the issues that are plaguing Ugandans as a people. Okay. Regarding security, of course, we all know that some parts of the country had a bit of instability. The northern Uganda had a bit of instability. Currently, we have some challenge, maybe Bundibujo side, the ADF side, you know. But by and large, Uganda is a stable country. We have security. There's an enabling environment for us to actually prosper as citizens. Now, if all the above is true, if we have infrastructure, if economically we are doing well, economic growth is has been going up for as long as we can remember, why is it that the common man is still poor? Why do we have 28% poverty levels, where people are unable to afford even a meal per day? They are living on $1 per day. Why do we have these problems? And these are some of the issues now maybe that we should look at. Education. It is no longer about quantity of education. We have UPE, we have the schools, we have private schools that are actually, you know, operating. We, as a country, we are educated. The quality of the education, again, service provision is where the challenge is. What kind of education are we giving our population? Are they benefiting from it? Is it going to help them to actually have skills that are actually going to help them reduce or get out of poverty? That is one question. Health services. Yes, we have the hospitals, But are these hospitals, do they have the medicines? Do we have qualified personnel to run these institutions? In Uganda, actually, we have some of the best doctors or the best health personnel. But sometimes they are constrained. They do not have medicine. You go to some of these regional referral hospitals, and yes, the structures are there, it's existing, but people are, laboring to even just get a piece of cotton wool, to get a Panadol. So these are some of the issues really that should be looked into. When we look at the infrastructure, the roads have their roads, but this common man might not even have produce to use that road on because they do not have access to finance. They need finance to inject into their businesses, into their farms, but they lack access to this finance to actually help them get out of poverty. So service delivery, I think, is a critical issue. We have all the policies in place. On paper, it looks good, but the common man has to really feel the impact of all these policies and all, the infrastructure that has been put in place.
Yes, we continue to look at these other policies, and as you're saying, one say that they can give you a road if maybe they have constructed the tarmac road in your area. But the challenge we are having, why we seem not to be, my expectation, as we will remember, that there is a target through the National Development Plan 123 and also the government deliberate mission and vision, which is transfer this economy from a subsistence economy to a middle income status economy. Whereas there are some economic developments and maybe projects which seem to have improved the status of how we are living, especially in our social lifestyles, but a lot is desirable to be done. When you talk about electricity, you find the electricity pole, and even, by the way, they are good. We have a good report of the megawatts. They increased the megawatts of expected electricity provision, which is supposed to be reaching to our people. But the challenge is, you find an electricity pole from, let's say, Mbarara to Kisoro, but out of many who have benefited from that, seems to be few. Households seems to be few. We'll be going into that in the next session. Dear viewers, we are going to go into the break and we assess one by one. We'll be talking about now the electricity, whether it is changing the lives of the people or not, the provision of electricity by those private companies. And we look to other areas. A lot is desirable to be understood and maybe suggest how to improve it better in order to reduce poverty. Stay tuned on Smart 24 TV. This is the best hour you can enjoy with us as you just view and listen to the point with the discussions together with us that we are having here.